Is this the same? Yeah, I'm not surprised. Okay.
Okay. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I'm gonna start chairing from this seat because Dawn is expected to arrive. She's at a high school event for her graduating daughter. Okay, first we're gonna have the NRTA Advisory Board meeting. I will call the June 10th NRTA meeting to order at 5:31 p.m. And the first item on the agenda is approval of the May 13 minutes. And just so you guys know, you can vote on minutes when you weren't in attendance, because otherwise we're going to have an issue with not having a quorum, but you can vote on them. So Gary, you need those done, right? The minutes, yeah. So
I'll move approval.
okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor? Okay, that's unanimous 4-0. Okay, great. Next item is public comment for items related to NRTA that are not on the agenda. And I am not seeing any hands up or anyone at the mic, so we will move forward to the next item, which is the Greenhound Intergovernmental Lease Agreement, and I will turn it over to the NRTA Administrator, Mr. Roberts.
Good evening, Gary Roberts, Administrator, NRTA. I wanted to welcome the new members of the advisory board. We'll be dealing with each other as time goes on, I'm sure. The Greenhound Intergovernmental Lease Agreement is something we've been working on for quite some time. If you're not aware, NRTA has been leasing office space from the town of Nantucket for its administrative offices located at 20R South Water Street for several years. The town had asked about the possibility for NRTA to locate its office space to the Greenhound bus station using available space at the 10 to 12 Washington Street site. I began the process last year to investigate the available space and how the facility could be repurposed to act as a passenger waiting area and to provide space for the NRTA administration. We completed an engineering study using AECom, contractor that we hired to go through the space, check code violations or anything that needed to be done. So we've gone through that and we have conceptual design plans in place. We have an RFP out currently for architectural design and engineering services. And we are waiting, we're at the point now to award the contract. Because we are using state funds to renovate the facility, we have to have a lease agreement, a long-term lease agreement to invest the state funds that we're going to be investing into the facility in place before we can move forward. So I've kind of held back on awarding the RFP until we've gotten to this point. We did receive a grant through supplemental capital funding from the state to do this project. NRTA will manage and do all the work at the site and provide all the funding. The estimated cost to do this relocation and to bring everything up to code and have the work done, we're sitting at like 1.3 million that currently we have funded right now to do the work. We've negotiated with the town on an intergovernmental lease agreement for a 25-year term to operate and use the Greenhound building for transportation services, including a passenger information / waiting area and the administrative offices, which would be like 4 office spaces, a conference room, and the IT areas that we need for our services there. We would plan to keep public restrooms open to the public. The way our design is set up now, even after the waiting area closes, the restrooms will be opened. We'll have it on a time lock system to just keep the bathrooms open. One restroom will be, there's 3 restrooms in there now. One would be designated for the administrative offices, but by shrinking down the waiting area and the capacity of the facility at any given time under code, we're covered to do how we're doing it now. Currently, we're kind of in the gray area with the capacity of the facility. So we still have work to do when the RFP begins to work on anything to do with fire protection, capacities for the buildings, engineer, structural parts of things that have to be done, adjusting one door opening to another. We don't expect a lot of exterior work to be done. You know, we may reshingle the entire building. The roof is fine for another 15 years through the work that we've done now. So what I'm trying to do is we're going to ask the board to approve the request to enter into the long-term lease agreement. However, this is going to have to transition into the select board under licenses that I'll stay for. Technically, the way it works, Nantucket's unique that the select board is the advisory board. Most other RTAs have several communities that are in their group, and they have one representative from each community. Special legislation has set it the way we do here. So I need an agreement from the board to enter into any lease that extends past 1 year. However, the select board would need to approve the lease that's being proposed first. So what we're doing is presenting this as a precursor to the licensing part in the select board, and I'll stick around for that point. And if we have questions regarding the lease or anything with that, then I'll be available at that time. But we're trying to compress it into one meeting. If it doesn't work, we'll do it in a different way. But we're trying to present this first and then move into the select board at that time, and then I can come back up.
So just to be clear, we're not taking a vote as the NRTA advisory board, but we will be taking a vote as the select board, or do you need both?
The select board would have to approve I think what you could do is you could do a vote to approve the NRTA to enter into the license now.
Okay.
Once the license is agreed upon.
It is very odd.
It's complicated to do, but we're trying to do it because technically the select board has to approve the license, and then we would do it's basically just allowing me as the signature for the authority to sign into the lease, but technically I can't do a lease past 1 year without approval from my board.
Okay,
do that.
great. Jill, did you have questions?
I have one question about the lease. Do most regional transit authorities have 25-year leases? Is that just kind of?
Generally, they range. If you're using federal funds, it's supposed to be 30 years. Generally, they're in the range. They do 99-year leases. Here, it's 25 years. That's enough for us to use the funding. We just need to have an agreement in place that if we're going to sink this much state money into a facility, that it can't be like a year and then we walk away from a facility that we've spent the funds on.
Okay. Can I ask one more question about the design?
Yeah. Jill's going to follow up. Sorry, Jill's going to follow up, and then Bobby. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask on the design. Are you redoing the whole inside and the bathrooms? Are they going to get expanded or is it just?
The entire facility on the inside, our current design includes replacing the entire electrical in the building, the fire protection, the warning systems, the bathrooms will be, the whole interior of the building will be done over.
So do you know if the bathrooms will be expanded?
They won't be expanded in size. There'll be 2 public restrooms that are in the facility,
Okay.
which is what it has right now, but we're going to bring them up to code to meet code for what's in there now.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Bobby?
Madam Chair, you might want to postpone this until Dawn gets here because I'm not prepared to vote on this tonight. I mean, I got this email at 12:58 and then I didn't get the actual contract until an hour or two later and I haven't had a chance to go through it. And I'm not saying it's not good, but I'm just not comfortable voting on a contract that I haven't had a chance to go through that's 25 years long. So
Okay.
you guys have much better idea of what's going on here. I mean, I just walked into this, so
Yeah.
I just would prefer, I'm just letting you know now, I'm going to not vote on this. So.
Okay.
Okay.
So we have the option to suspend the NRTA meeting until Dawn arrives, and then we can suspend the select board meeting to reopen the NRTA to finalize it unless Jill thinks that we'll have, are you comfortable voting for it? Because I understand Bobby's reticent. I do, because you haven't been here. If you're also not comfortable, that would be the path that I would go.
I
don't want to put you on the spot.
You know, I read it, because I read it at 5 o'clock tonight when
Mhm.
I got here, so I could look at it. It's got, I have one question.
Okay.
And I think if this question is right, I'm comfortable voting on it, but
Okay.
there's 50,000 being put aside for repairs. How, you want to explain how that works in the lease?
We do a capital improvement plan that, we do a 5-year plan. The 27 through 31 was just approved by the state. So we have a line item every year for $50,000 for capital improvements to the facility. That funding is locked in, so that $50,000 would be, as the roof needs to be replaced, the roof will get done. If gutters need to be done, if paving needs to be done.
Yeah.
So basically the way the agreement was the town is basically washing their hands of the facility and we're taking on the entire cost of all utilities, water, trash removal, any maintenance to the facility. The transit authority will pay for anything that needs to be done at that facility for the next 25 years.
And if you have 50,000 and you put it away and you only need 10 that year, that 40 stays and you get another 50.
It does
next year.
not. The way, so we
All right.
would design a project yearly. So the way capital funding works through MassDOT is we get awarded the funding. We get awarded on July 1. By June 30, the money needs to be expended. So we never leave funds standing that isn't spent because it affects your future CIP as you're applying for funds. If you have funds and you don't use it the following year, they're going to say, well, you didn't use it last year. Why aren't you doing it? So there's always improvements. We do it at the maintenance facility. We do it at the houses that we own. This year, our capital funding is $2.7 million. And we're going to be down to maybe $1,000 left. We find projects to make sure that the funds are spent. And by doing that, we've raised, from when I arrived here, it was only about 500,000 in capital funding. One year we had $7 million. We find projects to get it done.
Bobby?
Well, that was one of my questions because, as I said, I didn't have a chance to read the whole contract. But I saw in there, and correct me if I'm wrong, Gary, because like I said, I just looked at it quickly. It says that the rent is $2,100 a month plus 50,000 for capital. But when the capital money runs out, then the rent goes to 51,000 a year. Is that correct?
If it comes to the time that I cannot secure the 50,000 annually in capital funds to the property, we pledged to the town that we would pay a flat fee of $50,000 a year in rent for the property. That's the way we've done it.
That's just why
Yep.
I'm not saying it's not a good contract. I just don't feel comfortable without actually being able to go through it and ask some additional questions. So that's why I asked it. Maybe you want to wait till Dawn gets here.
What's the timeline on this for you, Gary? Because it sounded like he was kind of urgent.
So it sounded to me like this needs to be executed in order for him to move forward with the renovations and the use of the funding that he's been giving and so on and so forth. So it's,
By the end of the year.
The 1.3 million was awarded to us in September. They gave us kind of a 2-year window, but I did have meetings yesterday. I was traveling yesterday. I apologize that things came in late. We had meetings with the RTAs, and the state has balked at some capital supplemental funding in the future because they felt that the money wasn't being spent. We've explained that these projects take time, that if somebody gets $1 million to buy vehicles, you can't just go buy them. We've obligated the funds. It's expending the funds is what takes time. And this process has been going, we've been working on this for quite some time. So we have probably until a year from this time, but our estimates are going to be like 8 months to get this, by the time we award the RFP and the design services have to be done, structural engineering, that we're probably looking at 8 months to get this project done. So we're coming up on timelines that we have to show some expense on this project because the contract was signed in September to start this.
The other aspect is the lease increases 2% a year.
Mhm.
So that there is that in there. So
okay.
Just to clarify the 50,000, if you don't, sorry.
Yep. Go for
I'm
it.
still working.
No,
on
it's
that.
okay. It's okay.
The 50,000 is just for those buildings. Yeah. Or is it for,
The 50,000 that I have pledged to the town for capital improvements would be to the property of 10 to 12 Washington Street. So whether
It's
it be
just
the
for the
building
I just want to make
or
sure.
if it be sidewalk improvements or parking, anything in that footprint, lighting, anything like that, that we would provide, and along with that, pick up all costs for the operation of that building and that property.
Okay. I'm okay to move forward with it. There's been a lot of goodwill with you, Gary, and that I've recognized at the meetings over the years. So
Okay.
I know that I know you got a timeline and I appreciate that.
Okay. So what I'm looking for is a motion from the NRTA advisory board to approve the draft lease in our packet.
So moved.
second,
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And you abstaining, Bobby?
Abstaining,
Okay,
yes.
all right.
Thank
So
you.
that's 3 with 1 abstention. Oh, there are hands up online. Sorry. Why don't we, can we unmute Garrett Kilburn and see if he's talking about this lease?
Oh, fuck yourself, little bitch.
There we go. Yep. And, yeah. You can go ahead and unmute the other fellow. We have an increasing problem with Zoom bombers, everybody's, just so you know. So be prepared. Okay, we're good. Okay. All right. And the item's closed anyway. We completed it. So, okay. So that said, I would take a motion to adjourn the NRTA
So
advisory.
moved.
Second.
I'll give Bobby the motion and Jill the second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That is unanimous 4-0. Okay. Moving on to select board. Okay. Yep. Okay.
35 years.
Crossing Ts and dotting Is. Okay. So I will now call the June 10th Select Board meeting to order at 5:48 PM. And we will accept the agenda. We're going to move the announcements around. Oh, we already did. It looks like, We may take the announcements in a different order, and I'm going to pass that off to the town manager.
Item 8.2 is tabled.
Madam Chair,
Yeah.
I don't know if it's me, but I'm having a hard time hearing you three. I don't know if they can turn the volume up. But I can't hear that side of the table.
Okay. I may not have had my mic.
And I have my hearing aids turned on too, so it's not
Okay.
me.
Can you hear me when I speak direct?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, let me see
It's
if I can
funny.
do this.
I noticed the other day when people are on the speaker, because the speakers are up there, I have to turn and sit like this. So if you see me looking kind of funny, that's why.
Okay, you're not giving me a side eye? Okay. Okay, so item 8. What were we?
2.
Item,
2.
section 8, item 2 is being tabled for another meeting. Sorry about that, Libby.
That's good. Thank you. So this meeting is being video and audio recorded, and we have our Culture and Tourism Director here. She is going to take us through the next announcement, which relates to Juneteenth celebrations. Chantal?
Good evening. Struggles of being vertically challenged. Chantal Blaise Murphy, Director of Culture and Tourism, with the announcement about our annual Juneteenth celebration. So the Department of Culture and Tourism, in collaboration with the Museum of African American History, Boston and Nantucket, the Nantucket Historical Association, and the Nantucket Island Chamber of Commerce, invites the community to celebrate Juneteenth on Saturday, June 20th, from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the African Meeting House located at 27 and 29 York Street. As our nation approaches America's 250th anniversary, this year's celebration honors Black culture and its lasting impact on our country. The 2026 theme is Freedom Flows Here, which highlights the music, food, art, and traditions of the communities that have helped shape Nantucket's unique island heritage. Join us for a day of culture, history, community, and celebration. We also invite you all to join us on Friday, June 19th at the Historic College Cemetery on Mill Hill at 9 a.m. The Nantucket Cemetery Commission will open Juneteenth with the unveiling of a new monument honoring Absalom Boston and Hannah Cook Boston. The rain date for that celebration will be Saturday, June 27th at the same time. And just a quick run through of events for the June 20th celebration. We'll be doing our annual block party beginning at 10 a.m. The Nantucket Historical Association and the Museum of African American History will be hosting an interactive artifact display. You'll have the opportunity to touch, feel, smell, and ask questions to the staff that will be running that table. We'll have welcome remarks led by Dr. Noel Trent of the Museum of African American History. At 10:30, we'll have Neville Richin leading us in an Absalom Boston, the one-man portrayal. At 11:15, we'll have a performance by Shishi Fogo. 11:40, Eclipse Jazz Band will be performing. Then we break at 12:30 for a community lunch, which will be provided by Nantucket Island Creations, giving you an opportunity to sample some Jamaican food, Cape Verdean food, Southern food, and just all of the wonderful foods that make us a community. At 1 o'clock, we go into Kids Music and Movement with Corey Morgan. We'll have craft tables set up on York Street that will be led by the NHA team. And at 2 o'clock, we close out the show with Les Tulipes performance. That's always a fun one. People get moving. And of course, we close at 3 o'clock and the street will reopen at 4 p.m. Thank you.
Thanks, Chantal. That's a lot.
Thank you very much, Chantal. I know that you and your department have worked very hard on this, so thank you. Okay, next we are going to get a quick overview from the Water Department Director on our level 2 drought condition, which is going to lead into the impact on 4th of July celebration events. I think Mark is online.
I am.
Go ahead, Mark.
So as we all know, we are still in a level 2 drought condition. It came out yesterday, officially yesterday. The vineyard joined us in every community on the Cape. So the entirety of Cape and Islands is level 2. Hopefully we get some rain in the next month. And when it comes out again next month, hoping to get to a level 1 that's a little less restrictive. Just I think there's a little misunderstanding about the drought. You know, we usually average 40 to 42 inches of precipitation a year. The last 3 years were 24 inches, 27 inches, and last year itself was only 20 inches of rain. So for 3 years in a row, we've been about half of what we usually get. Last year, going back through all of Wanacomet's rain historical records, I got all the way back into the 80s, early 80s, and never saw anything close to 20 inches of rain in a year, which was last year. Uh, Last year being that 20-inch rain, from January to May, we had 8 inches of rain. This January to May, we've had 4. So I don't know if we're going to get out of this anytime soon. It's all tied to our water withdrawal permit. As you guys know, there's a drought well located in the middle of the island off Russell's Way. It sends radio signals readings to Mass DEP and the Drought Task Force. The measurement that we need to reach to get out of the drought is depth to water from the ground surface at that well, 25 feet. Right now, we're about 9 inches away from that, okay? So we're 9 inches lower than that. So we're doing what we can do, and we're asking businesses and customers to restrict outdoor water use. And leading into the 4th of July, I know the water fight downtown is a pretty important thing, and it's a strong tradition of the island. But I just don't think it's a good look for Wanacomet or the town to ask the residents and the businesses to restrict water and us go ahead and have a water fight on Main Street. So I would ask that we move not to hold the water fight on the 4th of July.
Thanks, Mark. I don't know if any board members have any questions of Mark, but this is leading into our next agenda item, which is an update on the July 4th celebration events and the impact of the drought condition on those events, which Mark just mentioned. A big one is the water fight. We've had some internal discussion about what we can replace the water fight with, and this wouldn't be the first time we've had to put it off. We had to do this last year as well. And Shanta, I think, will take us through what the replacement events are, as well as some other events on that day.
Okay. I have 2 solid pages of 4th of July activities, so bear with me. It's a lot. So I'll take you guys through the per location, if you will, because 4th of July celebrations happen at 3 locations throughout the island: the Main Street area, Children's Beach, and then, of course, the big one down at Jetty's Beach. So on Main Street, as usual, we'll have the Sustainable Nantucket Farmers Market, as well as our food truck market that abuts that, running from 8:30 to 12:30. We've partnered again with our actors that do the anniversary that will be hosting the 27th anniversary reading of the Declaration of Independence, which has moved to St. Paul's Church at 20 Fair Street. That'll be at 9 a.m. We will also be having a USA 250th parade through town, beginning at the bottom of Main Street. That will be led by the Nantucket High School drum line, and we have the Girl Scouts confirmed. We have emails out to the Boys/Cub Scouts. So if you're the troop leader and you're hearing this, please return our email. And it will also include members of some members of the public safety team. I know that Sheriff Perlman is very excited about this. At 10:15, we've chatted with the fire department. We understand that we cannot host the annual water contest. In lieu of that, we will have a touch-a-truck. So Chief Cranston and his crew, I spoke to Deputy Vamosi earlier as well. They'll have a touch-a-truck on Main Street. We've ordered a lot of 250th memorabilia items to hand out to children of all ages, if you will. So we'll be partnering with the fire department to hand out just treats for everyone down there. Things from 250th balls to the glider planes that we all built when we were kids, all sustainable, of course. And again, we just want to remind attendees to please refrain from bringing water balloons, soakers, and other water competition materials. We have ordered industrial size bubble machines because I know the kids want to have a water contest and we can't provide that, but I can give you some bubbles. So we actually have Linda Williams and her team of girls that usually help us with the bubbles at Children's Beach. So we'll have a full setup depending on the wind, hopefully at the top of Main Street, sending us down. If not, it'll be at the bottom going up. We'll see how it goes on the day of. But we'll have that. I know the kids, they just want to do something. So we're trying to provide them with an alternative. At 10:45, we have a community band performance that's being led by Nantucket High School music teacher, Tom Peppard. And he will kind of lead us through the rest of the day. That is the Main Street area. If you're interested in participating in the community band, please contact Tom Peppard. His email is tpeppard, that's PEPPARD @npsk.org. They had their first rehearsal this past Monday, and they'll be doing rehearsals every Monday leading up to it. I'm really excited about that. They have a good lineup of songs planned for that. Now, when we take it to Children's Beach, beginning at 10 a.m., we'll have PJ Moody singing the national anthem and other patriotic music on the bandstand. We'll have our lawn games, cornhole, ring toss, and of course, the coveted mat fee tea toss will be back. I don't know if Matt's ever been to that, but it's a thing. Like, it's a thing, and the kids get really competitive for that one. And then, of course, we have our team of face painters that are down there. We're actually doubling it, so we'll have 10 face painters, and we've already ordered all of the 250th stencils for face painting and the little body art stuff as well. We'll have a magic show led by Magic Mark on the bandstand. Kids music and movement with Corey Morgan. And we have some really fun 250th memorabilia instruments that we've ordered for the kids, everything from cowbells to kazoos to little mini drums, all of that. PJ Moody will then return to the bandstand to lead us through the bike parade. And then we kind of wrap at Children's Beach until 5 p.m. when we come back for the family games where it gets really competitive. This is where the big kids really thrive. We will have our 3-legged race, wheelbarrow, potato sack, the usual tug of war on the beach. So we encourage families to come, sign up. You don't have to sign up in advance. You can just come on down. We have a merry band of volunteers that will be helping us with that at 5 p.m. And if you're interested in participating in that, please reach out to Linda Williams for that. And then, of course, at 9 o'clock, we go to Jetty's Beach for the fireworks. Each year we have the NERDA wave buses that transport folks over from town, usually either the Whaling Museum or from in front of the town building over to Jetties for that. So please be reminded that you absolutely do not have to drive. You can ride your bike, walk, or hop on the wave. And then, of course, to help make all of this possible, we are asking for volunteers. So pardon me while I shamelessly beg right now. We are a merry band of 3 full-time staff members planning all of these activities. We certainly need help. We have over 100 red, white, and blue ribbons that will be arriving on the island in a few weeks, and we'll need help decorating the town. So we need help putting ribbons on the lampposts. I'm being a little presumptuous that it will be approved by town admin because the letter has not been sent yet. It's in my inbox to go tomorrow morning. And also ribbons that the American Legion folks have been so generous in offering us, flags to put about town. So we just need a little bit of help on the Saturday before the 4th to get the town decorated. We are encouraging folks, Flag Day is this coming Sunday, just to keep your flags waving high through to the 11th of July, starting Sunday, June 14th as well. And if you're interested in volunteering either on the day of at any of those 3 locations or with decorating the town the weekend before, please reach out to us at events@nantucket-ma.gov. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Chantal.
Tom?
Bobby?
Madam Chair, through you, I'm trying not to make Jason's highlight reel here, so I'm going to try to be as politically correct as I can. But I gotta say, I get we're in a level 2 drought. Okay, yeah, and I get that we don't want to set a bad precedence, but I mean, I drive around this island. And the golf courses are watering, everybody's watering their yards. I'm watering my yard because I have a well. And I'm not saying we need to drive 3 fire trucks down there and spray water everywhere, but can't we, for the love of, no, I'm not going to say that. Can't we just fill up one of your portable tanks with halfway full and let the kids fill their water guns with it and have fun on the 4th of July? Isn't there some way that we can do this and take a little heat from people who have to water their gardens with watering cans? I mean, it's the 4th of July. It's the nation's 250th birthday. And the well's down 9 inches, and we're all acting like we're all going to not have any water to drink tomorrow or be able to take a shower. I mean, how much water they put on the golf courses on this island every day? You know, it goes back into the ground. These kids are going to squirt each other. The water's going to go back into the ground. It's not like it's going to disappear. I don't know. I get frustrated with this kind of stuff. So Nantucket's known as the gray lady. There's no more gray here anymore. It's black, it's white, that's it. There's nothing. And I love to be able to figure out some way to let the kids have a little more fun than just not having water 2 years in a row.
Jill? Can I ask a question about is Mark still on?
Yep.
Or
Yeah.
Chief Crane, see here. Do we know how much water it actually is needed for the water gun fight? How many
Well, it
gallons?
depends. I mean, I'm not opposed to finding some middle ground. If you're talking one tanker or 500 gallons of water,
Yeah.
that's something
They
we
don't
might
use
be
the whole
able
thing,
to
do they?
just, it's hard for me to be in a position to try to enforce these rules and regulations and then just go full blown all out. But I'm not opposed to finding middle ground to do something. I can meet with the chief and see what we're talking about, a tanker truck or, one truck, a certain amount of water. We might be able to do something for the squirt gun fight type of thing.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting we bring fire trucks down there. I'm not,
Right.
that's what I'm saying. But for a kid to fill just a pool that the kid can fill their water guns out of and have fun. I know I'm probably harping on this more than I should, and I'm sorry, but
Bobby, we ended the water guns several years ago because people were getting too aggressive. There was no, seriously.
all right, forget
But-
I said anything.
So, just so you know, we haven't had the water gun situation. We've had the fire truck spraying the crowd has been the tradition the last couple of years, I think, right?
If I may, through.
ahead.
Town admin here is in a lose-lose situation. And we are trying to respond to the drought, and we're trying to respond to things that people have very bitterly complained about in the past, both where is the water fight? Why is there a water fight? My child and me and my grandfather got sprayed in the face with not just a water gun, a super soaker, and my my infant was soaked, and then there's, why can't we do that? It's so much fun. We're all about fun, but it's really hard to be in the middle of this. Maybe if the water director and the fire chief can find this middle ground way to spray the crowd a little with a one tank full of water, that might suffice. The watering that's going on all around the island is, there are probably perceptions about that, but a lot of that is irrigation wells. It's not technically town water.
And I get that, and I'm sorry, Madam Chair, through you.
Go ahead.
Just forget I said anything, but you might want to cancel the bubble machines because someone's going to get a bubble in their eye and they'll complain about that. So,
Well, here, the other thing that was happening was some of the super soaker, the heavy duty ones, they were playing games, shooting people in line, shooting into buildings, into businesses. It was becoming, some of the older kids were out of control, and the police were having trouble, sort of corralling them and enforcing that. So some of this we do to ourselves, unfortunately. Is how I
Yes,
feel.
unfortunately, some people behave badly and everybody pays the price. And it's a reality.
Through you.
Sure.
I just want to, what I'm hearing from the town manager though, is that it sounds like there's two things going on. We're saying that we're not doing it because of a drought, but it also sounds like it's proposed to not come back anyway.
No.
Okay, sorry. That's what I heard you say, because you said that there were a lot of people on both sides that had concern.
No, I did not in any way suggest that. And if you
Okay.
think I did, I apologize. That is not the suggestion at all.
Okay, thank you.
It's the water guns that are not going to come back. The tradition that we've had, which is the fire truck spraying the crowd on Main Street and getting everybody wet, that will come back after the drought. So, what's the pleasure of the board? Do you want to have Mark and Chief Cranston chat and come back to us?
No.
Okay.
Leave it alone.
I think
I tried.
I think the department's invested in a lot of other alternatives, and we'll see how it goes. If people enjoy it. Okay.
There's a lot planned. That's great. Thank you, Chantal.
I have, just while Mark's here, I have one other question. People ask me, Mark, is he still there?
Yep.
Yeah. Why are wells different? Isn't it, isn't the straw going into the same thing? I
Right.
think I know
So,
the answer, but I'll let you, I'll
right.
let you
So
know.
public water supplies are managed by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Golf courses are managed by Massachusetts. The golf courses have the same Water Management Act permit I do. It's a little different, but like they're watering, right now, I think they can water the tees and greens. No driving ranges, no fairways. So they're restricted too. Private wells are not restricted in any way by the Commonwealth. When you start talking about private well restrictions, that falls down onto the local town. So like the Board of Health. There are towns on the Cape that are starting to look at somehow regulating, I don't even know how you would enforce private well use for irrigation. I'm currently working with the Drought Task Force to find middle ground, because here we are saying we're going to protect the resource. And I agree with some of the board members. We're not going to run out of water. The aquifer is stressed a little bit, but we're not going to run out of water. We manage it through the drought, we'll be fine. One of my big concerns is if everybody goes out and drives in irrigation wells, then there's no control, right? There's zero control. So even when we get out of the drought, more water might be taken out of the bowl. If we put another 15, 16, 2,000 straws in the bowl and everybody's pulling it with no control, what's the worst impact? So I'm trying to work with the Commonwealth to find a middle ground where we can ease up on some of the restrictions and let people irrigate certain days a week or limit the time they can do it, certain days for a certain amount of hours. And we're working on the software program with our meters where we can track that stuff. We're getting a report every day of high use overnight, and we can fine tune that even more to limit it to where we could actually keep a good eye on lesser restrictions, give ease to some of these restrictions, and just be leery of a lot of private water wells, because there is no restriction by the state on that flow from the private well. That would have to come from our local board.
Yeah, thank you. And I do know that they do monitor, it does work. I had a pipe that burst and I didn't know where it was in the cellar, and they were able to call me and say, you've got some weird water going on this winter, and we were able to stop it fairly quickly. So I do that, the monitoring does work, so.
Okay, that was a lot of time on an announcement.
Yes.
Just saying.
We're waiting for Dawn.
Okay. Okay. Continue, please. Thank you, Chantal.
Thank you, Shanta. The public is continuing to be invited to review Vineyard Wind's debris infrastructure failure incident response plan summary. That's a mouthful, but basically if there is a blade failure, there is a draft plan out there and public comment is being sought until June 15th. And more information is on the town website. There is no select board meeting next week. Next regular meeting is Wednesday, June 24th. The board is meeting on Monday, June 15th. And one of the items, it's their monthly licensing and petitions meeting. And one of the items that has just been added to the agenda is the recent advisory from the state that on-premise locations, that's restaurant and hotels, can ask for service hours to extend to 3 a.m. until July 31st. It's a temporary program to accommodate World Cup events. So if there are restaurants and hotels out there that would like to seek approval for this, they should get their request to the licensing administrator as soon as possible. And the board could potentially take this up on Monday, no guarantees either way. And so I just wanted to mention that because we've gotten some questions about that today, but it does require local licensing authority, which is the select board approval. Town offices, as we noted earlier, are closed Friday, June 19th in observance of Juneteenth. And I think that's it for announcements.
Any select board comments or announcements? Sure. Okay. Next up is update on public comment questions from prior select board meetings. And I do have some stuff to share with the community. Bobby, how you hearing me? Okay. Good.
You're fine.
Okay, great. Maria Zoda inquired whether the select board could take action to address parking issues and construction-related debris on Cliff Road. The response is that the Nantucket Police Department will monitor the area and address actual parking violations. Beginning Monday, June 8th, community service officers will be deployed downtown, and the NPD will increase enforcements and visits to Cliff Road, including ticketing where appropriate. Members of the public are encouraged to report public trash issues via the Click and Fix Nantucket platform. And if you haven't used it, it's amazing. Sends requests right through to the DPW for anything you see around town that needs fixing. Amy Eldridge inquired whether the town has any special plans to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the United States. And I think we got a long list from Chantal about how the 250th is specifically being included in the celebration on the 4th of July. Campbell Sutton inquired about the policy regarding lawn signs, and the response is the town does not have a general written policy on lawn signs. Federal case law restricts municipalities from regulating the content of signs on private property, except to reasonable regulations regarding the physical characteristics of signs, such as their dimensions. Campbell Sutton also inquired whether the select board is interested in receiving NPNEDC quarterly reports. And the response is, please note that the NPNEDC meetings are public and recorded, and members of the public are encouraged to attend and ask questions. The select board appoints representatives to committees, boards, and commissions, including the NPNEDC, so that the board's interests can be represented and relevant matters discussed at committee meetings can be communicated back to the full board, including a select board rep to NPNEDC. Dave Collins inquired if it is possible to install signs reminding people of traffic rules on Union Street at Francis Street heading downtown. Town response: the use of the left turn signal to alert drivers at Francis Street stop sign that they are continuing north on Union Street instead of turning right into Francis Street is only a courtesy and not a legal requirement. Drivers on Francis Street should continue to yield the right-of-way to Union Street traffic to avoid collisions. The same condition exists at the other end of Francis Street and at other locations. The town is trying to minimize sign pollution and sign fatigue by only installing necessary safety signage. All drivers should continue to use their signals as a courtesy to others and to improve traffic flow. And that wraps that up. So moving on to public comment for items not on our agenda tonight. Is there anyone in the room who would like to speak? Campbell.
Hi, Campbell Sutton. Thank you for your responses to my previous inquiries. So one thing I noticed last week, and it also came up at the planning board on Monday, this thing with the one microphone doesn't allow, like if I'm here and I'm presenting something and someone from the audience has a question, as I think we had the transportation last week when you guys got rid of 13 parking spaces, there were probably people in the audience that wanted to say something, but we only have the one microphone. So when someone isn't presenting and taking up this one microphone, people aren't sure whether they're allowed to speak. So I'm sort of wondering if we can't get back to having to, or at least during comment. Because otherwise I think it shuts out people from feeling like they can participate. And I know we put it back up for the planning board because it's very difficult. Well, during that, there's a presenter, right? And then in a public hearing. So then, you're asking them to move out of the way. Anyway, it's just very complicated. And I'm not sure what we're trying to restrict by just having the one. Thank you.
Thank you, Campbell. Okay, I'm not seeing any. Oh,
Hi, Raymond DaCosta. I just wanted to ask the board if they could look into potentially with the valet parking lot being closed for the summer, the parking in town is already as bad as you would see it in August, and we're not even really into summer yet. For as long as I can remember, I've thought of the NERDA doing just a singular track to the school where people can park and bring them into town. So you park cars out of town. I don't know if it's possible since we're on the doorstep of summer, but I was wondering if the board could at least look into it and then let us know whether that's a possibility of having the NERDA pick up parkers at the high school and the middle school and then ferry to town.
thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't see any hands up online, seeing no one else rising to the mic. I will close public comment. We don't have any new business tonight. Next on the agenda is approval of minutes, warrants, and pending contracts. And typically what we've done for the newer board members is if anybody has any questions about pending contracts, we take minutes, payroll, and treasury warrants first as a group motion, and then take the pending contracts if there's questions. So
May I note one to be removed, please? It's
Okay.
the NCTV contract that is actually not quite ready.
Okay.
Motion to approve the payroll and treasury warrants
And minutes.
and the minutes.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, do I have Matt, was that a second? Okay, so all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, that is 4-0. Okay, now we're on pending contracts. Any questions from the board on pending contracts? With the note from the town manager that the NRTA one is the NCTV one is being taken out. Well, pick your acronym. Any questions from the board or a motion?
Move approval.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous 4-0. Okay, on to citizen departmental committee requests and reports. We are going to do the appointment process. Do you guys have paper slips?
Were we going to wait till Dawn gets here for that?
Oh, that's right. We're going to postpone till Dawn gets here. Sorry. Okay, so we'll hold committee appointments and move to the Coastal Resilience Advisory Committee quarterly report. Leah?
Hi, everyone. Leah Hill, Coastal Resilience Coordinator. Congratulations to the new select board members. I think my report will be coming up shortly. But for the new members, this is a good way for communication both between the Coastal Resilience Advisory Committee and the select board members to see what the committee has been up to. And then if there's any specific requests from your board to crack for them to work on. Okay, so this is the fourth quarter of 2025. And
Leah, I'm going to interrupt you. I'm on the Zoom and I'm not seeing it. So just hold for technological.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yeah.
I have to go for the restroom.
Okay. Okay,
Are we all set?
Ready to go. Go
Okay,
ahead.
great. So it's the fourth quarter of 2025 and the first quarter of 2026. So we're kind of looking backwards at this report. So it's December or October to December 2025 to January to March 2026. Some highlights from those 2 quarters were that the committee generated a pitch for coastal resilience videos. They advocated for $1 million towards coastal resilience planning. There were multiple presentations about resilience projects that were underway, and then many comments to the Conservation Commission's NOIs, which I'll explain later. And then they also supported the Steamship Authority's grant application. As far as outreach, there was a press release developed and sent out about the Coastal Resilience Advisory Committee's 2025 priority recommendations based on the Coastal Resilience Plan recommendations, and then which ones were accomplished in 2024. They created social media. I created a social media schedule for them, for the members to contribute. So that is every Thursday on the Natural Resources social media, both Facebook and Instagram. They created a draft narrative with the communications office to create short social media videos to help highlight the work the town is doing related to coastal resiliency. So just want to remind everyone that Nantucket's really at the forefront of coastal resiliency, and lots of towns and cities are looking to us to see what we're doing and how they can use that back in their towns or cities. Also to highlight CRAC as an entity and what they do. I think the Madam Moderator helped highlight that at town meeting, and then educate the community on coastal risks and how to mitigate those risks and bolster voter support, and then leave the viewers feeling hopeful, but a call to action. So not all doom and gloom. So we're working with the communications office right now to create those short videos. I'm not going to go through this because I've already explained this to you all, but that's just the list of the 2025 priorities that the Coastal Resilience Advisory came up with. Next slide. For the Conservation Commission's request to review notice of intent. So when the wetlands regs were updated, there's a provision in there for any applications within the flood zone to make sure that it is congruent with the town's coastal resilience plan. So we created a protocol consisting of specific questions for the committee members to answer regarding the property, and then they were answered and reviewed. There were 3 different properties within the downtown that the Coastal Resilience Advisory Committee commented on, and then the Conservation Commission either decided to take those recommendations or not take them, or take some of them. We are developed a new protocol because there was a lot of lead time between when CRAC meets and when these NOIs were submitted. So the streamlined approach is for me to review the NOIs and then, if needed, bring it to a CRAC meeting for their opinion. Next slide. We had Jeff Carlson, the director of the Natural Resources, come and talk about capital budget requests for fiscal year 2027. And within that, there was the Surfside Wastewater Treatment Facility dune resiliency. So that wasn't really part of Natural Resources, but part of the sewer department regarding resiliency. That was approved for $500,000. There was a dredge plan and sediment budget for $2 million. That was a recommendation within the Coastal Resilience Plan that Vince Murphy has been working on. That was approved. And then we had put in for an educational focused staff member, but that never made it to the final round. Next slide. CRAC also wrote a letter to the Capital Committee, kind of justifying and describing what that $1 million a year for coastal resilience planning money is used for, and why it's so important to have it. And so the letter's there. And I just want to thank the voters for approving that resiliency planning money, because it's so important as far as being able to actually apply for grants. Grants are reimbursable, so you need the money up front, and then you also need that matching funding, which this provides. And then it also helps provide work being able to continue and not that stop and go, which ends up costing us more money in the long run. We had a presentation by Arcadis on the coastal resilience districts. So they shared, kind of the history of this. They shared a draft map engagement area and discussed the minor differences between the home rule petition and the approved bylaw. And then CRAC suggested waiting on bringing the home rule petition back to annual town meeting and really see how the bylaw plays out in real life before that's brought back to town meeting. We had Stephen Crease come from the Great Harbor Yacht Club to talk about their resilience plan. They assessed all their properties within the downtown and worked with Woods Hole Group for this report. There are short-term and long-term adaptations for each property, and then strategies for tying into the coastal resilience recommendations that are within Washington Street Extension and Consu Springs. And Great Harbor Yacht Club is already implementing some of those near-term strategies. And then we had a grant writer from the Steamship Authority come, and they gave a high-level summary of what the Steamship Authority is applying for. So they're applying for a federal grant that came out to start the resiliency planning for the Nantucket terminal. They applied for the last 2 years and didn't get it, but they were designated a project of merit, which is good. So hopefully this year they have a good opportunity to receive that grant. And the select board wrote a support letter for that grant as well. So the next couple slides are 4 different resiliency projects that are underway that I updated the committee on. Next slide. The first is the Strategic Retreat and Relocation Program. This is a high priority within the Coastal Resiliency Plan, and it's to establish a proactive framework for addressing increasing coastal risk in Nantucket, where erosion, sea level rise, and storm impacts are reshaping long-term conditions across the island. And as we've invested on resiliency efforts to strengthen many of these areas, some areas you just can't use these resiliency methods. So the actions here could include moving structures, infrastructure, or public facilities, adjusting land use, or guiding future development away from the high-risk areas. The program supports a broad conversation about how to respond, building a shared understanding of risk and informing more proactive long-term decisions. So today, the process is kind of case by case, really emergency based. It's hard to follow. It's not very streamlined. It requires multiple reviews by many different departments. And so the hope is to really keep this a streamlined, proactive program where there's lots of collaboration interdepartmentally and where the community can understand, okay, you go here first, and then once you get that, then you go here. Next slide. These are the goals of the program. I'm not going to read all of them, but I'll just read the bullets. To develop an island-wide strategic retreat and relocation program that identifies these areas, establish implementable, equitable, and legally viable actions, honor Nantucket's historic, cultural, and environmental character, build directly on the Coastal Resilience Plan, develop a robust, transparent community engagement education strategy. We had one virtual open house this winter. The second one will be in person at 3 different locations, August 12th and 13th. So keep your eyes out for that. There'll be food and drink and really a time for the community to come out and see. We'll have like boards, which we did for Easy Street and Washington Street. So people can come and drop in, have something to eat, learn about the program, give feedback. So August 12th and 13th at the Hive, the Whaling Museum, and Millie's. The next project is the Surfside Wastewater Treatment Facility Resilience Project. This is a CZM grant that we received. So the grant was a little under $300,000. And then we had to match it with $75,000. The tasks are doing an existing conditions and erosion risk assessment, and then developing alternatives based on those assessments and analyzing them, stakeholder engagement, and then what will come out of it is a 10% concept design and implementation plan. So if you all don't remember, a couple years ago, in front of one of those beds, we lost almost 150 feet of dune. So that caused at least one bed. Now I believe there's 2 or 3 that are getting filled in because they're at risk of saltwater infiltration. The next project is the Easy Street Flood Mitigation Project. This has been, let's see, we got a CZM grant, I think 3 years ago at this point now. So the funding that we got at town meeting last year, we improved the scope and updated it. We'll be updating modeling, groundwater data collection and modeling. We just did geotechnical back in April downtown and put in 2 groundwater wells to see what the groundwater level is at different parts of the year, and help us model when do we expect that groundwater to rise up to cause issues both within the roadway but also on properties. And then enhance graphics to picture how the project area may look like, cost estimates, doing a historic structures review and an addendum to Resilient Nantucket, and then lots and lots and lots of public outreach. For the Easy Street project, just want to remind everyone, like, these resiliency projects take years and years and years to plan and then come up with funding for construction. And I should say permitting takes a very long time too. So once we start the planning process, it's years until it goes to permitting. So we received 2.4 million in 2025 at annual town meeting. Our final scope is actually under that at 2.1. And we are just sort of re-kicking off that project as we speak. Next slide. So this diagram is straight from the Coastal Resilience Plan. It just shows the concept of the downtown neighborhood flood barrier, which is pretty extensive from basically Holbert Ave down to Francis Street, Washington Street area. And the concept is to protect our downtown, right? So we can't really retreat downtown. We're trying to protect it, reduce that flood risk. And so it's just pointing out where the Easy Street project is in relation to the Francis Street Beach project, which I'll be talking about next. So it's just 2 areas within that concept that we have started because they were the most at risk as far as flooding today, and that transportation disruption in and out of town to businesses around the island, et cetera. Next slide. So the Francis Street Beach Improvement Project, the kind of map on the left are the parcels that are included within it. So the beach there, that is town, part of it's town owned, part of it's land bank owned. The 2 parcels inland where the artist colonies used to be, and then the Salt Marsh Center. So in 2023, the Washington Street Collaborative Work Group was established after a meeting with the Select Board and the Land Bank Commission. The town partnered with the Land Bank and Remain to fund this first phase of the project. So from planning to 30% design. With these projects, you go to 30% design, you kind of reevaluate the project, get estimates, then you go to 60%, 90% permitting construction. So for this phase, we had an MOU where the land bank and the town split the costs down the middle. The total cost of that phase was a little under $700,000. But we got half of that reimbursed through grants. So $328,000 in grants. So really the town paid $184,000 for this first phase of the project. The scope included coastal and stormwater modeling, a benefit cost analysis, a community engagement, many community engagement events, 30% design of the preferred alternative, which I'll show in a little bit, and then preliminary cost estimates for further design, permitting, and construction. So we are getting the deliverables within, I would say, the next week. And staff are continuing to work with the Land Bank Project Work Group and partners to refine the project scope for the next phase of design, evaluate the priorities, and address questions that arose during the review of the preliminary cost estimates. Additional analysis and refinement are needed before determining which elements are necessary and how resources can be best allocated. We're also exploring alternative funding opportunities, such as grants again, to help offset that design and permitting cost. And we'll return to the board with a fully refined scope of work, updated cost estimates, and recommendations following further evaluation. So we'll come back to the board to explain all that once we have it. These are the project goals for the project for Francis Street Beach project. Again, I'm not going to read them all, they're up there, but really 3 buckets: environmental goals, social goals, and operational goals. Next slide. This is what it could look like. It's a concept here. If you're, a bird looking down at Francis Street Beach. So the idea is to increase the dune elevation there. Right now, there's 2 flood pathways during coastal storms that come in and flood that intersection. So the dune would be a natural way to keep the water out. And then an ADA accessible boardwalk, if you will, that goes from up and over the dune and onto the beach. Be native plantings, and then inland would be a rain garden on the land bank properties, and the Saltmarsh Center would, we would do some upgrades there because the parking spaces are not compliant, and then do some best management practices for stormwater in that area. This is if you're on the boardwalk and you're kind of looking down towards the town pier, what it may look like. Next slide. And then a perspective if you're on the road looking out to the water, there'd be stairs on one side leading you up to the boardwalk with seats. And then on the right, you can't really see it, but an ADA accessible ramp that would get you up and over and onto the beach. Okay, so that is the crack report. This slide is always in here to see if there are any issues or advice or action items that the select board would like the Coastal Resilience Advisory Committee to work on. These 2 quarters, the committee doesn't have any recommendations to the select board, but if there's anything that you'd like crack to work on, we'd love to hear it.
Thank you, Leah. That's
Thank you.
thorough. Thank you. Any questions?
Leah, does everybody who's working together rely on the same data? And can we hear a little bit more about what that data is that's driving your decisions?
Are you referring to the sea level rise projections? Or?
I guess the NOAA high.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what you rely on, but maybe you could hear a little bit
Deb,
about
if
that.
you can scroll down to the additional slides that I sent. There's a sea level rise one. Keep going. Here we go. So in July 28th, 2020, the select board adopted using the 2017 NOAA high sea level rise scenario. I should say NOAA updates this scenario about every 5 years. Then in January of 2022, the select board endorsed the Coastal Resiliency Plan, which used the high sea level rise scenario. In 2023, I came back to the board because NOAA had updated their sea level rise scenario. And we also had data from the Massachusetts Coast Flood Risk Model, which is the best available data we have for coastal flooding projections into the future that the state produced and the state relies on. So in bold is what the recommendation from CRAC was, and that is what was adopted by the select board at these essentially 3 different meetings. Since adoption, these scenarios have been used in obviously the coastal resiliency plan, all of the projects. And then I do a lot of outreach and education to the community, and they always ask me like, okay, what data should we be using? And so based on what the select board has adopted and told us to use is what I then share.
And that's about 8 feet, right? That the NOAA high level, I mean, they have different levels, but the high, I thought
They
was
have
about
different
8.
levels for Nantucket. As soon as 2100, it is 6.66 feet. And if we want to like get into the nitty gritty, I'm happy to come back and explain all of that in more detail.
Okay, yeah, I'm kind of hoping that the board can talk about that a little more, just to understand it more.
Yeah.
And know what's informing you. There's a lot of money here. Some of the projects you mentioned, I don't even have in the capital improvement plan, and I've added up $560 million in the next 10 years for what is on the plan. And I know we're going to talk about capital projects later. So I just think it's good for us you have so much on your plate, and I know it's kind of mind blowing for a lot of people, but I think it'd be good to take an overall look. For example, the Washington Street project, how does that interact with the Francis Street project? Are you all coordinating together? And then it goes on over to Consu Springs, and that's owned by the land bank. And, are they going to pay for that? I think there's just a lot of questions that I have that I hope that we can take a deeper dive into it at some point as a board.
May I, Madam Chair, may I respond? So we actually underway, I understand the numbers are staggering, absolutely. And we are working on actually updating the coastal resilience recommendations and those cost estimates, which should take, I think, in the next 2 months or so. So we'll have a more refined estimate for those 40 recommendations. So I think once we get that, that'd be a great time to start that conversation back up, because numbers will get adjusted within the CIP based on that.
Anybody else?
Yeah,
Matt?
I'll make just a comment. I think a lot of these projects are going to be sequenced, so they're not going to, we're going to be doing some easy things and some first steps that can be done, and homeowners should be taking the first steps that they can do easily. I think, and that's a lot of that isn't as expensive. I think that the important thing is giving the right direction. Earlier in the slide, it talked about Great Harbor Yacht Club and how they are, moving some of their mini splits and raising things. And then they're planning to connect at the same level that Washington Street's going to be, and some of the other homeowners have indicated they'll do. And so that it's important that you have the planning and have that vision. So if they do make changes, they don't have to do it twice. So they don't, if they're going to raise their bulkhead, let's get everybody doing the same thing. And so I think that part is solid. We as a board, and me as a member of CRAC and a member of this board, hesitated on the Easy Street when we saw the 6 feet and the 8 feet, and we don't even know what they're going to be doing at the steamship. We know that something has to happen there, but I think the most important thing that has to happen there is telling the people who own properties there what they should be thinking long-term and what the agreed upon solution is going to be. And I don't think we're quite there yet. I know sometimes the consultants want to get the consulting done and we want to move this along, but I think that we still have a little more work, and, and we've talked about that at CRAC. And so we're not, so I think this is a process. I think Washington Street showed that bringing in the public and having all the different data and making changes, that showed a pretty positive process that I think that we eventually hopefully can do in-house and replicate. So that's, sort of my thoughts on it, so.
Yeah, I would like as a board for us to potentially discuss what this data is and get into that. And you all approved it before. And I just think it's time that we take another look as we're looking to prioritize. We're talking about 40 different projects, and I want to see kind of a global view of how that ties in. And we're not just looking at 10 years. We're really looking at, it sounds like, to 2100. So I think it would be a good idea to, if we're going to have all these projects, maybe there's a 30-year view of it, a 40-year, a 50-year. And so that's my comment. Leah, great work, and thank you.
Yeah. Thanks. Bobby?
Madam Chair, I haven't drank the Kool-Aid on this, so, you know, I'm just going to give you a couple anecdotal reasons why, and then I'm sure we're going to discuss this a lot more in the next 3 years, but my family's had a boat in the marina since they built it in 1968. The finger piers on Straight Wharf have not changed in height. They sometimes flood over the top. In one time in my life, I've seen the water go up over the boat basin, and it was the no-name storm. And the water went all the way to Main Street. And I asked some of the old timers if they ever saw water go that high, and they said, nope, that's the highest they've ever seen it. Talking about guys like Charlie Sales, guys that aren't alive anymore. They've been on the water here. They were in their 90s when I asked them these questions. That same storm, which is the storm of the decade, the water did not flood up to the DPW building where the present location is now. But one of the reasons why we needed to move it, I was told, was because it was in a floodplain. Francis Street floods, Easy Street floods, they've been flooding since the 1800s. The only reason that Orange Street doesn't flood is because the railroad dike stops the water from coming up to Cumbies. If that dike wasn't there, that would all flood. You know, to raise Easy Street 8 feet, all you're going to do is send the water somewhere else. It's going to go up over Steamship, or it's going to go up onto North Wharf. It's going to go somewhere else. We live in a coastal plain that we decided 150 or 200 years ago to fill in with whatever fill we could find and build houses on it. And that's the reality. And do we have sea level rise? Yes. Do we have global warming? Yes. Are we going to be underwater by 2050? No. That's my take on it. And I'm going to be the stick in the mud on this. I'm just letting you all know this right now that, you know, $500 million in expenditures to raise Nantucket Road 8 feet and Easy Street 6 feet or 8 feet or whatever you got here. You're going to have a hard time with me convincing me of these things.
I think we're all in agreement that this is going to we're going to take a hard look at all of this before we move any project.
I really want to look at the data because
Yep.
I don't believe that these numbers are accurate.
All right.
Thank you, Leah.
Thanks. We'll see
On
you
that
again.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, can I ask one more question?
Sure,
Sorry, Leah. On the money, so you've gotten 4.8 million authorized to borrow since 2020, I think, and then you've spent 3.3. And I know you've actually gotten that money through grants and I just wanted to make sure that was right. So what's the remaining borrowing authority that you have?
Erica, do you mind going? I think it might be the
I
next
think you
slide.
got a lot matched, so you have.
I think the next slide. Nope, sorry. Up. Nope. That one. Yeah. So yeah, 4.8 since ATM in 2020. And then if you're not including the grants, 3 million has been spent, but we've got an offset of about 1.9 million with grants. So what's in there right now is about 2.9 million. Those are earmarked for moving the Francis Street Beach project to the next phases, implementing. So I explained the retreat and relocation program. There will be recommendations out of that, which obviously needs money to be able to implement. And then I highlighted, you know, the importance of having this money as matches for grants, because we don't have it. There's no way to get grants. But again, this topic we can have another meeting about. Hasn't really changed since we came to you at Capital Committee. But I wanted to put it in here in case you asked.
Sure. And of that, through you, Madam Chair. Sorry, I didn't know Bob was.
Go ahead.
No, I get it. I just, we're going to agenda this as a further longer discussion. So I'm kind of.
I had a more specific question, just
Okay,
real quick.
on the presentation. more
Yes,
than
yes, on the
yeah, okay,
presentation.
great.
So,
let's keep it at that.
on the sewer beds, the photos were from 2024. Have we remeasured it since then? Is it increased or is it decreased?
Nope. So I have 3 erosion monitoring stations out in front of there. One is to the west, in the middle where that circle is, and then to the east. And no, there's about 10 feet from the edge of the fence line to the edge of the dune where that circle is.
And I guess when it goes to retreat, do we have land available to move those 3 beds back?
So that's all part of this project that we got a grant for.
So there
Is
is,
to-
that's the plan, is to move those 3 that are closest
Yeah,
farther back.
do some near-term solutions to fill in those beds, make them a bit more resilient, more like dunes. And then for the beds that we had to fill in with the DEP, whatever's within the DEP permit that we have to have, having those retreat back. There's property within the fence line, and then there's property that the town owns to the east of this facility. So it's like both near-term and long-term adaptation planning for it.
Okay.
Yeah. Or near and medium term.
Right.
Yeah, is more, we can handle it near and probably into the immediate term is what I would call it.
We have.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
The other
we do have some people online to, Matt, go ahead. And then,
And the other comment is, we've always been told you can never get an outflow pipe, they'll never approve it. But they actually are, if your water is treated and in good shape, they are in the midst of approving one, I think, in Falmouth. So there are things that are changing that we would have thought 5 or 10 years ago weren't possible, might be possible. So those are the things that have to be looked into. So maybe if it's cleaned well enough, you don't need quite as many beds, and maybe another way to do it. But that's partly why we have to stay on this and be working on it, is because if you don't, it's not something you can just pick up and figure out in a month or a year. You have, so we're doing the right thing, and it's not easy, and it's a lot, so.
okay, Dawn, do you want to take over? So there's a couple hands up online.
Yeah, I see. I'm going to go to the public. Rick Atherton.
Dawn, thank you. Am I unmuted?
Yep, we can hear you.
Matt sort of stole my thunder, but I remember many years ago, one of our prior consultants said in the long run, the town should be working right then, that may have been 15 years ago, to understand the implications and possibilities of an outflow pipe from our sewage treatment plant. I mean, we are processing the water so it's supposedly virtually drinkable. And I think that's a solution we should have actively underway now, not 5 years from now. So thank you, Matt, for mentioning that. But I've mentioned it to others, in the past, and I don't sense a lot of, what would I call it? Reasonable approaches from the town to invest in that option. And I would hope that could be undertaken positively. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Mary Longacre.
Thank you, Don. Mary Longacre, former member and chair of the Coastal Resilience Advisory Committee. I want to hope that Leah can correct a misperception. Easy Street is not going to be raised by 6 or 8 feet. The proposal would look at raising it to an elevation of 6 or 8 feet, but it's not at 0 right now. Perhaps Leah can provide a little bit more detail on that.
Okay to comment. Thanks, Madam Chair. Yes, so this happened the last time too, when I gave this presentation back in January. So it's not elevating it, like Mary said, 6.5 or 8 feet. It is whatever the elevation is on the road, bringing that up to 6.5, 8 feet. The elevation is not at 0 NAVD 88. There's areas that are at 3 feet NAVD 88. There are areas at 2.5 feet NAVD 88. So it's the NAVD 88 is an engineering unit. It is not actually 6 feet of where you're standing down there.
Thank you, Leah.
Okay, thank you, Mary. Matt?
But the pictures that were shown the road was gonna be higher and the water was gonna go into people's buildings. So there was you know, on the set, on the medium or the taller of the two, whatever the feet, how many feet it was, that I think there's still more work on sort of finalizing that from a timing standpoint and you know, what's the right way to message it to the owners of the, you know, and no one wants to be walking along Easy Street and looking at hubcaps or at their waist or at their head, wherever they are. So I think those are the things that we still, as a community and as a, you know, as a group, are trying to work through.
May I comment on that? Yes, so that is all part of the lots of tasks for this project is to address all of that and all of the questions that we got from the community. That's why I said for the public outreach dynamic plan, lots of public outreach and engagement.
And the group has had open meetings. I think it was at the Whaling Museum, and they've met with a good number of the homeowners and the business owners already down there. So they're, you know, that sort of, you know, community outreach and planning has been taking place and will continue to take place. So.
Yeah, and I do want to mention a lot of those owners said raise the road. So that is why this has made it into the concept. It wasn't even in there before.
Anything else this evening? Sounds like we'll be digging deeper into parts
Yeah.
of this.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Leah. Okay. Oh, I thought we were going to do it at the end. No? We now have the town manager's report, the report from the health director.
So thank you. We just have one item here. Several months ago, the health director gave me some data on short-term rentals, numbers of registrations, where they are located, things of that nature. And in discussing it with the chair and the vice chair, we agreed it might be a good idea to review that data, since it was such a topic of conversation at the beginning of the short-term rental regulation discussion. And since then, a lot of things have happened, including the hiring of our short-term rental community liaison, Lori Elliott, who is right here. The health director is online. He's prepared a presentation which will take you through, and it really is intended to just review data. It isn't really intended to make definitive conclusions about anything. People can probably reach their own conclusions about things, and the board probably would welcome input from the board about whatever other data to be collected that we might be able to get from the registration program. Roki?
Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Rocky Miramontes, Public Health Director. Although I am online, I believe Lori Elliott, as you mentioned, is in the room and available to address questions as they pertain to her work with the registration system. I have just a few slides to provide data from the online system that has been active since March of 2024. However, since there was a delayed start to the registration process, 2 years of data are available for review, 2025 and year-to-date 2026. The same data points were reviewed last year when there were 1,351 registrations, as well as earlier in the spring of this year. The results have remained largely unchanged. Next slide, please. As of June 1st, 2026, there were 1,623 active registrations, which are referred to as permits in this presentation, as well as in practice in the community. Of those, 1,551 represent unique addresses and 63 are properties with multiple permits. STR ownership remains overwhelmingly non-local. Next slide, please. 881 properties, or 56.9% of short-term rental properties, are owned by people or entities, usually LLCs or family trusts, that do not reside on Nantucket. One rule of STR operation on Nantucket is that ownership must be traceable back to a real person. For this analysis, those owner addresses were used to calculate this data. 25.3% of owners live off island, but in Massachusetts, and 18.3% list a primary address on Nantucket. Next slide, please. The most common street addresses associated with short-term rentals on Nantucket include Union Street, Main Street, Nantucket Road, Pulpus Road, Orange Street, and Cliff Road. The heaviest concentration overall is in the downtown area. Next slide, please. Here's a list of where out-of-state owners of Nantucket STRs reside, with New York, Connecticut, Florida, and New Jersey leading the way, with the exception of California and Texas, which are the two most populous states. All are along the eastern seaboard. Next slide, please. Data from multi-permit properties were reviewed and presented here. The health department was aware of only a limited number of complaints last year, and I'm only aware of one so far this year. However, the few that we did receive last year included multi-permit operations, which is why we looked at this data. And those complaints were associated with parking and noise. And there are 63 in the database, and 71% are owned by Nantucket property owners. Next slide, please. That's all I have, and happy to entertain questions, as will Lori.
Any questions? We have someone coming to the mic.
I did have a question.
Go
Sorry,
ahead.
Dawn.
Go ahead.
Did you just wanted to give us permit information, right? So we don't know how many weeks any of these permit holders rented. Is that kind of for a separate evaluation, Rocky?
It's certainly something we can do. We collect quarterly data, and because of the lag in the initial collection of data, the first time we collected that quarterly data was the period, the third quarter of last year. I'm using the yearly calendar here. And so I think there were about 17,000 days total. We didn't look at it any much closer than that. Over the winter, there was not as much activity or to speak of, although we did collect the data. I think what will be most informative will be this coming period, March, April, May, and then, I'm sorry, April, May, June, and then July, August, September.
Okay, Bobby.
Rocky, you said you've been collecting data for 2 years, is that correct?
Well, its registration system's been in place since March 2024, but we had some snags with new software. So really the first data that we have available is last year and then this year, and there's already been
My question
increase
is,
in the number of. Go
my
ahead.
question is I just have one comment on one thing in here, and it's under the ownership geography. Where does owners live? The last paragraph says 18.3% of STR properties have local Nantucket or Wisconsin mailing address. And this is the part I'm trying to get my head around, emphasizing the shift from traditional home sharing to investor seasonal ownership. I sold real estate here in the 90s. All of our rental homes were owned by people in Connecticut, New York, New Jersey. There were very few that were Nantucket owned homes. So just because we've been collecting the data for 2 years doesn't mean there's a shift necessarily. So I just want to make that a point, that we only have basically a year and a half of data. So it's hard to say that we have a shift or that there's any kind of change here. So.
Noted. Thank you.
Jill?
And just to comment on that note, is that this really tracks really what our residential property tax is. It's about 80% from people who don't live here. So it's not just STRs, it's actually tracking the makeup of the home ownership here.
Penny?
Okay, thank you. My name is Penny Dye, and I live in town. A couple of comments for context that I think will be helpful here. In this report, it says just over 1,600 permit records exist locally for short-term vacation rentals. During the height of the pandemic, there were 2,600 houses registered with the Commonwealth for short-term rentals. Okay. On the ownership geography, it says that 81.6 of these registered properties are owned by people that don't live here. That tracks exactly, as Jill has just pointed out, with the 82% of our property taxes, which are paid by people that don't reside on the island. The report also says that 56.9% of the properties are associated with owners outside of the state of Massachusetts. I don't understand why it's implied that that's an issue of some sort. And this also confirms what we already know, which is that 64% of all properties on the island are only occupied seasonally. The folks that rent these properties are not billionaires, and many of them only rent for a couple of weeks, possibly a month, to help defray the cost of ownership on Nantucket, which is a long-standing tradition here. Information I think that would be more helpful to the community would be details on usage, how these properties are actually occupied, number of weeks, time of year, which month, how a percentage occupancy based on sleeping capacity, that type of thing. So lastly, I just want to say, I feel like there's a bit of a bias in the manner in which these conclusions were drawn and written, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. I would agree that it would be much more helpful if we can get the data on usage. I think that it would be a much more clearer, a much clearer story.
Madam Chair, if I could respond.
Yep.
So yeah, as I mentioned, the quarterly data, we don't have much of it to look at, but we will have more, and we can certainly drill down into that data to see what is available and what we can report out. And then just one quick response to the 2,600 that the state had registered. That system is additive. Once you add something to that system, the state system, it doesn't go away. It just gets bigger and bigger. So it's not necessarily an accurate representation of what you have short-term rental wise on Nantucket.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Duhame. You've heard me in some other contexts come here to complain about lack of progress in enforcement with short-term rentals. So I wanted to come back and give some compliments. I think town administration and the health department have done a great job, especially in the last year. First of all, in bringing Lori on board, the professionalism with which she's interacted with my friends who are short-term rental owners has really taken execution in this department up a notch. I realize that a lot of it's having a person to focus on this full time, but also it's really been encouraging to see the progress the health department has been making in stepping in enforcement. First of all, going after short-term rental operators that are not part of the registry, which is obviously fundamental to getting the data on what's happening out there. And more recently, going after the commercial entities that are, according to what we as voters decided at town meeting, not permitted to operate short-term rentals. So it's awesome that the health department is stepping up to that and going after that. And I just thought it was time to say something nice for a change. So thank you.
Thank you. We love good feedback. Anything else on this tonight? Okay. Why don't we do the appointments now, and then we'll go to the last two items under select board reports and comments.
All right. So for your annual committee appointments, just going to review the process real quick. You have had the list that has been in the packet for quite a few weeks of all the applicants. We have had some people withdraw. Kit Murphy from the Board of Health, Mary Longacre from the Capital Program Committee. Cindy Bodges from Finance Committee. Today, we had David Gray withdraw his name from the HDC Associate seat. Clay Evans and Stephen Welch from the Planning Board for the alternate seats. So what we usually do for our newest member, because I know Bobby did this prior. Okay, so normally what the board does is we review all the uncontested seats. And then you can take one vote by acclamation to appoint all the candidates if you so wish. So I'm gonna just review the uncontested seats first. These will just require a voice vote, just a regular, just how you usually do it. So Agricultural Commission, 2 seats available, 2 applicants, Kelly Steffen and Benjamin Reppert. Airport Commission, 2 seats available and 2 applicants, Tony Buscarin and Scott Wilson. Cannabis Advisory Committee, 2 seats available and 1 applicant, Joe Plandowski. Cemetery Commission, 2 seats available and 2 applicants, Alan Reinhardt and Amelia Holmes. Council for Human Services, 4 seats available and 3 applicants, Kyan Samuel Roberts, Jamie Lice, and Kelly Steffen. I want to go backwards just for a sec. For the Cannabis Advisory Committee, the 2 seats that are available, 1 seat is 28, 1 seat is 29. And I would suggest that Joe Plandowski, if elected or appointed, be put in the 29 seat because he is an incumbent. For Council for Human Services, like I said, we were doing 4 seats available, 3 applicants, and one of the seats is a vacant seat with a term ending 2027, 3 seats, terms end 2029. I would think that you would just put all 3 applicants, if appointed, in those 29 seats. Council on Aging, 3 seats available and 2 applicants, Marianne Easley and Kelsey Gray. The Historic District Commission Associate, 1 seat available and 1 applicant, Joe Paul. Nantucket Affordable Housing Trust, 3 seats available and 2 applicants, Brian Sullivan and John Wise. Nantucket Historical Commission, 2 seats available and 2 applicants, George Butterworth and Rita Carr. Planning Board Alternate, 1 seat available and 1 applicant, Dylan Meshampel. Scholarship Committee, 3 seats available and 1 applicant. The 3 seats are broken up into 1 seat ending 2028, 2 seats ending 2029. The sole applicant is Francie Basket. I would suggest putting her in a 29 seat. Sign Advisory Council, 5 seats available and 4 applicants. This council has been around for a while, but this is the first year we're doing tiered terms. So there's 1 seat for 27, 2 seats for 28, 2 seats for 29. The applicants are Chris Young, Paul Wolf, Mark Catone, and Kevin Kuster. If you want to assign those, you can. If you want town administration to assign them, we're happy to do that. We can work with the applicants.
Question.
Yep.
I see is there one here that received the?
Yep. He's going to be in round 2.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Zoning Board of Appeals, 2 seats available, 1 for 28, 1 for 31. The applicant is Elisa Allen. She's the incumbent, so I would put her in the 2031 seat. And then Zoning Board of Appeals alternate, 1 seat available and 1 applicant, Jesse Bell. So if you're in agreement with all those, I would suggest that somebody makes a motion to approve by acclamation or to appoint by acclamation.
So moved with your recommendations.
Is there a second?
Second.
Oh, Barry.
On the
Rector,
motion,
please.
Barry? Sort of.
Sort of yes, sort of no. I'm sorry, Barry Rector. Let me make your life a little bit easier at the moment by reducing one more at the moment. That would be the Capital Program Committee. After a fair amount of reflection, the board seems to be functioning well with the current members on board, and respectfully, I'm going to withdraw my name from that. Should an opportunity ever arise in the future, or if something comes available, please consider me at that point. But go with your 2 applicants, and you're down 1 more committee to have to think about. Thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank you,
so
Barry.
we'll be then adding the Capital Program Committee to your uncontested seat.
So is that a
I'll make that, I'll
amended
make that,
motion?
that friendly amendment.
And second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That carries unanimously 5-0.
Great. And now for your uncontested seats.
Or
Oh, sorry,
you mean our
contested seats, contested seats. How we usually do this is by paper ballot. Everybody will write their name, like all the board members write your name on there, and then the applicant for the board that we review first. They'll just shoot them right down. So first up is Board of Health. We have 2 seats available, 5 applicants, Mary Lepre, Ann Smith, Amy Beaton, Kate Garrett, and Ernie Strang. And just so everybody knows, I'll collect the paper ballots and count them and then read the votes. Okay, the votes are as follows. Mary Lepre with 1 vote cast by, this is supposed to be Mr. Fee. Ann Smith with 1 vote cast by Mr. Fee. Kate Garrett with 4 votes cast by Chair Hill, Ms. Moore, Mr. DaCosta, and Ms. Veith. And Mr. Strang, Ernie Strang, with 4 votes cast by Chair Hill, Ms. Moore, Mr. DaCosta, and Jill Veith. So that is Kate Garrett and Ernie Strang. Next is the Conservation Commission. There are 2 seats available and 3 applicants. Tim Brain, RJ Turcott, and Benjamin Reppert. So you're voting for 2 candidates?
I was like mail-in votes. We're getting them in early.
It's nice when you have all these ones that are uncontested. I remember some nights sitting here for like an hour.
Okay. Tim Brain received votes from all members. RJ Turcott received votes from all members, so that's unanimous. So voted. Next is the Contract Review Committee. 1 seat available and 2 applicants, Linda Williams and Tara Restieri.
Oh, you haven't done yours yet? No, sorry. I'm ahead of myself.
And,
Okay, Linda Williams received votes from Chair Hill, Mr. DaCosta, and Ms. Veith. Tara Restieri received votes from Ms. Moore and Mr. Feast. That goes to Linda Williams. Next is the Finance Committee, 3 seats available and 4 applicants. Rob Giachetti, Joanna Roach, Martin McCarrow, and Benjamin Reppert. You're going to be voting for 3.
You old school the paper.
I did it like 3 weeks ago. And then they kept dropping out.
Bobby.
Oh, sorry. Not paying attention here. It's a long stretch between me and you here. I don't know why we're so far apart. I thought maybe I smelled like fish and you didn't want me near you.
Right, this was a unanimous vote as well. Rob Giachetti, Joanna Roach, and Martin McCarroll, who happen to be the three incumbents, all received unanimous votes from all members, so 5-0 on each one. Real Estate Assessment Committee, there are 2 seats available and 3 applicants. Nathaniel Lowell, Jesse Bell, and Lee Tesser. You're going to vote for 2. Nat Lowell received votes from all 5 members. Jesse Bell received votes from Chair Hill, Ms. Moore, Mr. DaCosta, and Ms. Veith. Lee Tesser received a vote from Mr. Fee, so that is Jesse Bell and Nat Lowell. Last is the Tree Advisory Committee, 3 seats available and 4 applicants. Mary Longacre, David Gray, Eve Mezing, and Benjamin Reppert. You're going to be voting for 3.
Jill's recusing from this vote.
Okay. Okay, so with Ms. Veith recused, Mary Longacre received 4 votes from the remainder of the board members. David Gray received 4 votes from the remainder of the board members. Eve Mezing received votes from Chair Hill, Ms. Moore, and Mr. DaCosta. Benjamin Reppert received a vote from Mr. Fee. That puts Mary Longacre, David Gray, and Eve Mezing in for the Tree Advisory Committee. I just wanted to note, I wanted to thank all the people who put their names in for committees. If you were not chosen, please don't be discouraged. Continue to put your name in. We are going to have a round 2. Deb and I are going to be putting together a list tomorrow to get online and put in the paper for next week. And we will try to get that process, that timeline, turned around really quickly. So just be on the lookout for information on the website and in the news. Thank you.
I'd like to echo, thank everyone who's put themselves forward and everyone who has served and continues to serve. We appreciate it. Okay. Next up, we have the update on the investigation of the African Meeting House vandalism. Brooke, do you have anything new?
Only that the timeline that I was going to put together, I've decided that I think it's going to come all as a package when the report is ready for public viewing. Whenever that happens, I still don't have a timeline on that. And I did want to comment that the Museum of African American History experienced another incident of where picked it up from the Boston Globe that a box of their Juneteenth materials was lit on fire outside of their location on Beacon Hill in Boston last week. And I wanted to let the rest of the board know that I did reach out to contacts at the Museum of African American History to express our sympathy, empathy, upset, mine personally, but I that we were aware that it happened and that unfortunately it felt a little too familiar. And so I'm very much looking forward to them being here for Juneteenth, and I hope you all will join me at some point during the day as part of that celebration on the 20th, actually. So thanks.
Thank you. Clifford?
Clifford Williams, a member of the African Meeting House Investigation Committee. Hopefully you've had a chance to go over the RFP that I submitted and that we used during the selection of the investigators. I submitted it last week. I think it makes it pretty clear what the duties were supposed to be and how we were supposed to conduct the investigation. Tried to reach out to the investigators. They're kind of ghosting me. I haven't got a response back. It's clear that we need to have a meeting. We need to have the investigators come down and clarify what their duties are and what they agreed to. One of the biggest reasons that we hired them was they had a great amount of resources and they were going to come down here like SEAL Team 6 and hit the ground running and do a big investigation, and I haven't seen that happen. So I was hoping somebody can call for a meeting. I've asked for one for months and months and gotten nowhere. So I'm not sure who's supposed to be involved as far as the leader of this group now, and I'm just looking for a meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any committee reports?
No.
Jill?
Can I just make one? Bob was bragging earlier about his fishing today. And I, as a land shark, just wanted to make mention that I went out to Great Point today and it was wonderful. And I went on a great bird tour and I just wanted to encourage everyone to get out there. So Bob's always bragging, so I had to get it.
I have a question so you can clarify for me. I believe I know the answer, and this is, I'm going to say, you tell me if I'm wrong. I am sitting on SHAB still as a member, and we are an advisory board to this board. So I don't want them to think that I'm just going to come in here and bring things to this board without it going through the proper channels. So I'm going to reiterate to them that anything that we want to bring in front of this board would have to go through Jeff and administration and then come to us. Am I correct in that assumption?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Especially because you're an elected member of that board and you're not a board representative on that board.
I know.
Right. So it's not really a subcommittee.
At one point, way back when I was on this board, we actually had a
Way back.
representative that went to the SHAB meetings and sat through their meetings. Do you remember that, Libby? So we got rid of that at some point, but I don't think we need it again. I'm not saying that. But, anyway, thank you.
One other thing, I'd like to welcome former select board member Jason Bridges to the room this evening. He came in late. Welcome back, Jason. And on that, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Carries unanimously 5-0.
I think there's more buying. I think there's more concern from buying.
Yeah, especially when I